Welcome to the Mind Myself podcast. I'm Esther, and it is my pleasure to be bringing you information about healthcare approaches, health issues, and people's health journey stories, all from the complementary, holistic, and integrative perspectives, helping you become your own best health advocate and helping you make your own informed choices because you matter. Welcome to Mind Myself Conversations with E. I'm Esther and the founder and CEO of Mind Myself. And it is my great pleasure to bring back my friend and this fantastic human being, Sandra Lee. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello.
Sandra, tell us a little bit about yourself for people who haven't met you before. Who are you? What are your credentials? And what do you love doing in your life?
What comes up to say is that I am always striving to make things better for myself, for other people. And I've talked to you in the past about human design, the chart system that I use. And in my design chart, a big part of what I do is help there be more truth, help there be more truth and integrity. And so that looks like always striving to make things better for myself and everyone else. And of course, sometimes that means what's really up in my mind is what's not true or what's not the way I want it to be. So always healing, myself, facilitating other people and healing too is a way of helping things get better, people be happier.
I love it. And I know personally that you are a scientist. You have been a massage therapist and body worker for 30 plus years. You do, as you mentioned, human design work. You do biofield tuning. You work with crystals. And now you have this whole new modality, which we're going to be exploring today. And it's called MAP. Tell us, what is MAP? What's it all about? What does it look like?
MAP stands for Make Anything Possible. And it is an extraordinary healing modality that works better, in my experience, than anything else I have ever tried. And in over 30 years, I have received many different energy therapies, and I do many different therapies, and I've learned many different therapies. I have been working on healing my own limiting beliefs and helping other people heal their limiting beliefs on a conscious level for a long time. But I was still kind of stuck when it comes to some of my memories, some of my issues. And I don't know if you know what I mean, where it's like I heal this over and I thought that was done, but here it is again, and here it is
Yes,
again.
yes, I
Those
know
those things that always recur, these
that.
belief systems, these stopping places. So I have been doing MAP now as a student since September. It is now December. So it's only been a couple of months. And in this short time, significant changes in my own personal chronic life issues and the memories that come up. Significant changes. And this is after 3 decades of healing them. To actually see real change in them is like, oh my gosh, life changing. So for someone like me who likes helping people get past the places where they are stuck, this is revolutionary. So huge.
So tell us, so make anything possible. I love that name. But what does that mean? What is the approach? What do you do?
So we all know that there's a conscious mind and the things that I'm aware of and thinking of consciously. And then we're all familiar with the fact that there is also a subconscious or unconscious mind. Things that I know that I have experienced, but I'm not paying attention to them, aware of them at the time. You may also be familiar with the concept of parts
Mhm.
parts of us. Something happens, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to deal with that. And a part of me gets traumatized or not happy, not comfortable, feels hurt. And that part of me kind of gets shoved out. So here's my experience of who I think I am and what my life is about. But there's a part of me that's gotten stuck out here. We call these trauma parts. So what happens if something activates this trauma part? Has anything ever happened to you that activates an old memory? It's like you get all upset.
Absolutely, yes. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's trapped in a certain area of my body, or I'll call it a thought loop, something like that, for sure.
Yes. And sometimes you might do things, say things, feel things that don't feel like who you know yourself to be.
Yes.
Okay. So imagine that this part that's been over here, something triggered it and it comes in to my active experience. It comes into my awareness.
Hmm.
And I start doing and saying things. It's like, why did I do that? That's not me. It's because this part has come in and taken over. And sometimes what actually happens is the part of me that is who I think of myself being, sometimes that gets shoved out.
Hmm.
And this trauma part is completely running the show.
Right.
So this whole process of having this activation of trauma parts, we want to heal that so that this doesn't happen anymore. So imagine we can take all of these parts over here and help them to heal so that they can become part of who I am without having to have this whole shuttling things in and out. Okay. So in MAP, we talk about the superconscious. Okay. We've talked about the conscious, we've talked about the unconscious, subconscious, and we've talked about these parts. There's a part of me called the superconscious that knows everything, that knows what causes what, knows what I need, knows what to heal. In MAP, we work with the superconscious. And we say, superconscious, go find what needs to be healed and treat it. And the superconscious does it.
Well, just with that direction to the
Well,
superconscious, go heal it, and it does? Or
it's
does
a
it
little
work?
more complicated. I mean, there's a
Okay.
whole, there's whole procedures and stuff like that. But
Okay.
what it gets down to it is I was like, if this is something I am working on, right? I am struggling with how I get upset with somebody when such and such happens, just to make something up.
Yeah, not that anyone can relate with that ever. No.
Yes. And so we go in and say, okay, so superconscious, what needs to be healed to address that? And then we say, okay, superconscious, identify that and then heal it. And it does. It's crazy how this happens. Now, the reality is what it actually looks like is I am testing a chart. I'm using muscle testing.
Hmm.
Say, superconscious, what on this chart does Esther and this issue want to heal?
Hmm.
And so the superconscious, it's crazy how it actually really works. And the superconscious says, okay, well, this, and then we treat that. And there's a whole script and stuff that goes with it. But basically, that's it. We are working on the big picture perspective that your superconscious has. And it has access to everything that's ever happened to you. It works with inherited stuff. It works with, if you believe in other lifetimes, other lifetimes. It works with memories from childhood. Those get activated all the time. And it's like, oh, and this just happened today because I was in a practice today. Oh, that thing that happened when I was a child, I saw it differently this time because the superconscious gave me a different perspective so that I don't have to get stuck there anymore.
Cool. And so you do this as a practitioner, bringing your whole toolkit to work with people, of course, including muscle testing. So can somebody do this by themselves, or do you have to do a lot of study, or is it better to start with some guidance and a practitioner such as yourself?
Well, so a lot depends on the person. Some people do very well guiding themselves, and other people like can't see the stuff themselves and really need the guidance of a practitioner. But even me, in practice for forever, right? When I get stuck, it's difficult for me to fully treat myself. I'm too close to my stuff to be able to see it. So I also benefit from working with other practitioners.
Got it. So what I'm hearing you say is if something's really close, to use your metaphor there, visual metaphor, if something's really close and we can't see the forest for the trees, that's a perfect time to get some help with it. Maybe we can do some of the other things, but not those things at first. And so how long does it take to start working?
Again, it depends on the person.
Mhm.
So I have worked with people who have been chronically stuck. And I have worked with them in the past with biofield tuning. And one person in particular, she had substantial changes happen in her very first map session. Now, we had done other work before, and she was ready, but big changes for somebody who had, just like a lifetime of chronic stuff. Other people, it really depends. It depends on how ready they are to change, how aware somebody is.
Mhm.
In supervised practice today, we were talking, other students were asking questions. They have people who are really holding on to their stuff. It's going to take longer because it's what they're ready for. So for people who tend to be connected to mind myself and are probably more conscious, aware, self-responsible, aware, paying attention to the stuff that comes up, it could happen pretty quickly because you're already on the road.
Got it.
When we take people like the average person on the street who doesn't have that level of responsibility and awareness, it could take longer. But again, it just really depends.
Right. So I would say, from what I'm hearing from you, an average rule would be, or an average way to approach it would be, expect a session or two or three and see how it goes. You might experience something right away, but prepare for a few sessions just to really make sure that you get what you need from it. Awesome.
Yeah.
And what kinds of results, you've alluded to a few, but what kinds of results are you experiencing so far in this new modality you're using?
Let me tell you about my own first,
Okay.
because those are the ones that are just like the most immediately present. One of the things that I struggle with is doing marketing. In the past 2 weeks, and again, this is after 3 decades of healing myself, in the past 2 weeks, I have seen substantial changes in my own resistance to marketing and my own clarity about who I am, who I help, how to talk about what I do. Like I had been struggling to write the 30-second commercial, the thing
Yeah.
you say to somebody when they ask you what you do. And months, I was like, oh, it's just not right. And I work with a coach and it's like, no, this isn't working. And I received a map session from another student. And the next morning I woke up and I wrote it. And then in the supervised practice I was in yesterday, I was working on resistance marketing, and I made up, I'm gonna say it's possible that marketing could be fun. Which to me is like, that's not possible. But by the end of the session, I was giggling and seeing things, it's like I send sparkles your way. That's what my marketing does, gives you sparkles. And it turned marketing into something that has, the possibility of being fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This person who I mentioned that had been chronically traumatized, just abuse in childhood, leading to adult life that has a really hard time functioning. Okay. Very quickly, she is gaining her life back. She's the person who I mentioned, in her first session, big changes, like right away. She says, I'm starting to feel some self-respect, which for her was a really big deal. She went to a gathering recently and she was actually comfortable being with people. And she didn't realize until she got home. It's like, oh, that's unusual. And it's because of the healing that we have been doing. Another one of my clients didn't know this when we started, but she was not comfortable expressing herself to her husband or to her boss. She was withholding. Now she's like much more better communication, much better, happier relationship with her husband, and opened up communication with her boss. Boss like gave her bonus, gave her time off that she didn't have to ask for because she had opened things up in response to the healing that she received through doing that.
Amazing.
Sometimes physical symptoms get better. The person who I worked on in supervised practice today, she'd had a big pain that morning as a result of something that had happened and a disagreement she had had the previous evening. The end of the mat session, the pain was gone. And she had more clarity about the dynamics of what was going on in the relationship and how to shift her perspectives.
Wonderful. And how I look forward to hearing more as time goes on, as you incorporate this into your body of work. Now that you're a student, and I know how fast you are as a student, and then it just gets right in there. How does this map work incorporate with some other healing modalities? And maybe after that, how does it integrate with Western medicine, if at all?
So that I do biofield tuning. So
Yes.
using a tuning fork and a hockey puck to make sounds and to intuitively do healing work. So I almost always add the biofield tuning into what I'm doing with MAP. And it just like amplifies, speeds it up. So, adding the biofield tuning. I continue to get intuitive information about whatever it is that's going on. So that all just kind of merges in. I do human design as well. I haven't experimented with doing MAP when it comes to human design yet. I think that's coming, but it hasn't. Basically, I just wait for things to start happening.
Right.
So that just hasn't started happening yet.
Got it. And you're a highly intuitive person. Having experienced your work, you're highly intuitive. And that's one of the genius things about working with you.
Now, to talk about incorporating it into the other things I do, also, I will throw in little bits of MAP, whatever I'm doing. So, for example, if I'm doing hands-on with you, I was like, oh, hey, super conscious, treat this. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a whole MAP session.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what does Western medicine think about this or some of the other things that you've mentioned? Biofield tuning, human design?
I would say that Western medicine mostly doesn't think about it. And, Western medicine just kind of knows that there's all of us people out on the edges doing kind of woo-woo stuff. And they mostly just kind of don't deal with us. But they are becoming more and more understanding when the patients actually choose to incorporate these other things. Or when some practitioners, because there are some practitioners that are still connected to the Western medical model, the Western medical system, who are bringing in more of the energy healing, things like that. So I think Western medicine is becoming more accepting. And then if there are some cases, people who don't have resolution of their health issues, then they might say, like, well, go try that and see what happens.
Right. Got it. So sometimes it's a last resort. I would say, why not make it one of your first resorts along with Western medicine, if that's your model, and see what healing can emerge from that. That's my personal philosophy, but each to their own for sure. And I know that there in some nursing training there has been an inclusion of healing touch modalities, and I think that's wonderful, and quantum touch, and sometimes they don't even have to touch, it's just energy movement. I think that's amazing, and I know that there are lots of nurses who really appreciate that modality, and it's made a difference with their patients. So I include this work, map work, and the other things that you do in that kind of a discussion as well. And I'm really grateful that that's part of what you offer to the world.
What makes the Western medical system's acceptance of alternatives is when they have scientific studies. Unfortunately, that requires, formal research, funding, and it's just harder to get that. Now, in the case of MAP is actually based on a lot of, you know, Western medical accepted therapies. So Colette Stryker, the woman who came up with this system, was working on healing herself and her issues. And she learned a lot of different things. She learned NLP and, this and that, just all of the different techniques that she was able to find. She just learned them all, some of which are accepted by Western medicine, and found that she wasn't getting the results that she wanted. And she met a psychologist named Gary Flint, and she incorporated his whole body of work with his blessing into MAP. It's like Colette kind of became the recipient of the process healing method, was Gary Flint's method. And so she incorporated, kind of as a whole cloth, Gary Flint's work into MAP. Still found that she wasn't getting the results that she wanted, so continued to enhance it. So if you look at, psychologist, well-known psychologist in private practice working with people who had pretty serious, psychiatric issues, that's Western medicine, accepted as part of the Western medicine model. So that got incorporated into the body of MAP.
Fantastic. Now, I know in the notes that we're going to accompany this video with, this podcast, you have a few resources. Please describe some of those resources and what people can expect.
The first is that if people are interested in doing MAP for themselves, there is a self-directed subscription program that is available through the MAP Institute. And so Esther has links to the MAP coaching program for that. There is a way that you can try it out for a short period of time just to see if it's something you're interested in. And then there's a subscription program that actually gives you a tremendous amount of resources, a tremendous amount of access to sessions and things like that. If you want to, and that's going to be very much self-directed, picking and choosing what you want to do. But again, there's a lot available within that program. If you want to work with an actual practitioner, an individual person, that's when you're going to get the most personalized, obviously personalized attention, personalized focus, personalized healing. So when we do MAP sessions, you pick something you want to work on. Mm-hmm. And so Superconscious then guides us to whatever it is that your system wants healing for associated with that issue.
Fantastic. So you've got lots of resources for people to learn more about this, dive in, and also there will be a way to connect with you, of course, through the Mind Myself, your practitioner profile. And what's something you'd like to leave your listeners with today, Sandra?
There may be things that you have been working on healing forever and feel like this is never going away. I'm never going to get through this to the other side. I have had my share of those myself. And just looking at what has happened for me in the past couple of weeks and over the past several months that I've been doing this, to see substantial progress really gives me hope. So you can heal.
That's a great place to leave people with. You can heal. And we do this because you matter. Thank you so much, Sandra, for being here and sharing your wisdom with us again today.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us at the Mind Myself podcast today. We know that time is precious and you've spent some of your valuable time with us. We're grateful. If you would like to reach out to our guests directly, the information is below. And if you would like more from Mind Myself, that information is also below. Please visit our website and check out all the information about the different complementary, holistic, and integrative healthcare approaches, information about health issues, more podcasts, tons of blogs, and we even have a community page for you where you could reach out and tell your story safely, or you could ask questions and perhaps somebody else in the world is going through something similar to you. In any case, we're so glad you're with us, and we're doing this because you matter.